Welcome back to the Ignite Your Spark podcast. So, on this episode, we're going to be talking all things limiting beliefs. So, I just want to start by saying a limiting belief is a limiting decision that we have made. Now, when I heard that, I don't know about you, Lisa, because you're obviously into we've just had a chat about limiting beliefs and things. But when I heard that, it was like, oh, a limiting decision that I have made. So we create them unconsciously. So as we said earlier, like if I was to say to you in terms of like, what does a limiting belief mean to you? Because everyone's got a different representation of it. So what would it mean to you?
For me, like generally when I think about it, then me being on my high horse, I'm like, there's nothing holding me back. Like there's no limiting belief. Like I can do anything. Which is where I am now. Go back 15 years, different story. But yeah, like when I think about something that was holding me back in my past, that it was a case of that, like maybe I didn't fully understand what the limiting belief was. So now that, like, as I grow up and I expand my experience and knowledge and things, then I explore those limiting beliefs. And I like, so whatever it is, like, for example, a big limiting belief for me, I don't know if it was limiting belief, but it was just basically self-employed is not fun. I don't want to do that. I don't want to expose my future family, future life to that. But that was just because from my watching my dad be self-employed and build his life. And it was only when I chose to explore it myself that I realized what I saw in my childhood is not how self-employed always is. That is not the rule of how self-employed is. There's so many opportunities that you can have. And when I explored that avenue, I realized actually working for myself is way better than anything I've had before. But it was just never even a consideration before, because in my mind, I had an opinion that was set in stone.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And that's the thing, isn't it? Like because obviously limiting beliefs tend to start between the ages of 0 to 7. So that is our imprint stage. And this is what really opened my eyes, because I was like, how can this start at such a young age? Like you're a kid, you know? So obviously when I did my like NLP training and everything, we really went into context with this and we were like really dug deep. And they gave an example of, say when you was a child and your mum was in the kitchen and she was like cooking your dinner, for example, and you was trying to get her attention, but she was, trying to do everything. Poor girl. She's been at work all day. She's trying to get your dinner on. And she turned around to you and she just said, wait 1 minute, for example. As a young child, you've already made that decision that maybe you're not good enough, because you've not got that full and undivided attention. And that's when it can then start to build as you go through life. And it's just so interesting. And when you start to do this work, because like you said, you sit there and think, well, I've not really got any limiting beliefs and things. But because it's all unconscious, they're not coming to the surface. So until you start to do that work, that's what, like you said, like self-employment doesn't have to be like this. It's only when you make it conscious and, go to explore it to try to break that.
Yeah. And that's such an interesting example that you give. So like a story from my childhood, that when I was younger, I overheard my mum talking about the fact that money was tight. And I don't know, she was having a chat with someone, she was reeling off, and the kids have got to get their hair cut, we've got to do this and blah, blah, blah. And I heard it as like a 4-year-old, 5-year-old little kid. And I cut my own hair. I cut my own hair, like up here, horrific, because I was trying to save my mum some money. Because you hear the smallest bit, especially when you're a child, because you know 10% of the context. And I heard that, and then probably what I got from that is like some of my money mindset has been, I must save money so that I'm never in a position that I can't have the basics in life, the maintenance things in life. And it's exactly that situation. You hear something in passing, and it's always the weirdest things that stay with you. It's always those passing comments that like your dad made to your mum or your auntie made or something, and then like I have found that a lot of the work that I've done recently, that it feeds back to something that I was like, oh, I barely remember that, but now I think about it, of course that correlates. And it's so interesting.
It's so interesting. And even like when I sit there and think about certain things, because one of my limiting beliefs, if you like, when I was, gosh, how old was I? It was when I just moved to London. So I was 25, bearing in mind I'm 36 now. So it was a good 11 years ago. But I remember leaving a long-term relationship of like 8-9 years. So that in itself was quite daunting, like moving from Manchester, coming into London, becoming cabin crew, not a clue in the world what I was doing. I had nobody around me, and like, I mean, I had my best friend like down here, she was doing the same job, but I didn't have anyone. And for me, that limiting belief was, oh my goodness, I've left my partner of 9 years, and I'm going to be cabin crew that's not going to earn me enough money, and oh my, I'm going to have to try and get another job. Because
Right.
my mum, bless her, when I was young, she always had 2 jobs. Like, she worked so hard because my dad wasn't around at the time, and that was their thing, and they separated. So I think for me, and that having that mentality of always having to
Mm.
constantly work and graft and have a full-time job, then go work in a bar, and that was what I kind of did when I became cabin crew. But because
Yeah.
of the nature of the role and the shift work, having a bar job, just it was
So hard.
exhausting.
Yeah, I
And
bet.
I was like, there's just got to be more to life than this. And like you said, that was my limiting belief of always having to have 2 jobs to earn not even a large amount of money, though,
No,
just enough
no.
to get by. Do
Hmm.
you know what I mean? And that's what I've always had in my head. Money just pays the bills. It's just getting by. And now, knowing what I know and the journey that I've been on,
Yes.
I'm like, there is so much more to life than this. And it's only when you come out of that environment of what you've been conditioned to believe in a way, and
Hmm.
start, exploring your own path and trialing different things and thinking there is another way. Like, there really, really
Exactly.
is.
And also, like, with our limiting beliefs, they need to get with the times.
Yeah.
Because when we were a kid, when we were 0 to 7, the world was a different place. Our
Completely,
jobs
yeah.
that we currently do did not exist. So, yeah, we're holding on to these beliefs that are from 20, 30 years ago in a completely different world. Like, before smartphones, like way
Yeah.
before smartphones. Like, I can't even think of an example. But, like, yeah, like, you have that in your mind that if you're an adult, you have to work 2 jobs to get by. Whereas
Yeah.
now you can work 10 hours and get by very nicely. So like, yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta update your limiting beliefs and again explore them to realize that does not
Yeah.
stand anymore. That
I
doesn't
love
exist.
that. Update your limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to do a bit of a course on that one, because
Yeah.
I think that's a good one. And so let's going back to your belief, like your limiting belief and
Mm.
everything. Like, what helped you like kind of overcome that and get through that process?
I think for me that like as I've grown up and like through my 10-year career in like the financial industry and just being an adult and like kind of paving my way as being an adult and like going traveling on my own and stuff like that, that over time my confidence has really, really built that any situation that I'm in, I can work my way out of it. Whatever happens, I can figure it out because I have
Yeah.
so many times. There has been so many situations where I was scared shitless and it was fine. It was nothing. And
Yeah.
it's so like you hear so much and it's so, so true that we put our minds through pain and upset and discomfort all of the time, imagining all of these things that never even happened. Like we've
Yeah.
been through it, we've put ourselves through it, and it's never even happened. So we are so resilient. And the more that you lean into that, I can't even remember when I really had that realization. I was like, what am I worrying about? Like, whatever someone puts in front of me, I know I'll figure it out. I just know that I do. And when as soon as I've started to have that mindset and that outlook and things don't phase me anymore.
Yeah.
I don't worry
Yeah.
anywhere near as much as I used to because I genuinely know it's kind of like what's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah.
Nothing.
And that's
Nowhere
one
near
thing.
as bad.
Exactly. But that's the way our mind is programmed. And I was speaking to one of my clients about this the other day on a call, and I said, when we get into this place of like worrying about something that's not even happened yet, because we do as humans go to the worst case scenario.
Mm,
Like, we do, it's the way we're designed. And it goes back to the hunter-gatherer days of always our body needs to know what's going to happen next so it can protect it in a way. And is it going to be in fight, flight, fawn or
yeah.
freeze response, And we're not in the hunter-gatherer days anymore. Do you know what I mean? But our brains
Exactly.
are still
Updated.
designed. It's updated. Yeah, maybe AI can do something for our brains. I don't know, but
Plug them
um,
in.
yeah,
Yeah,
but that's the thing, and it's like we forget that, and we forget that is our internal mechanic, if you like, of how things
exactly.
work.
Yeah. And it's really a lot to do with your environment as well.
Oh
Like
yeah,
if you say you're with a partner that I don't want to go into too much, but like if someone's putting you down all the time, whether it's your partner, your parent, whatever it is, then you believe that. And that's like, I do feel like you could do a lot of movement of coming out of your limiting beliefs when you go out on your own. when you
Yeah.
discover things on your own and you prove to yourself how good you are and how much you
Yeah.
can achieve. I feel like that's a really like game changer period where
Yeah.
you prove to yourself, because otherwise you always lean in on someone, and then you probably
Yeah.
associate your success or working out a difficult situation by the person that you were with in that scenario, when
Yeah.
actually no, you can absolutely achieve it on your own if you have to. But yeah, I think that's, yeah, it's so it's so funny now I look at it, I'm like, yes, update our limiting beliefs. Like our body's
Yeah.
natural response is so outdated.
It is. It's like the you know, when you got your Apple iPhone and it's like update software. That's what needs to
Yeah.
happen. Like literally,
Literally.
just wipe it up, like
Yeah.
upload it. But it's like I said, like interesting that a limited decision is a limiting belief is a limited decision that we have made. So if we've
Mm.
made it, we've got the power to make it, we've got the power to change it. But people tend to forget that, and then we
Oh
get
yeah.
stuck in this internal like hard
Cycle.
where we do. And like we were saying earlier, like everyone's got their own internal strategy of how they function and how they work. So if you've got like limiting belief on something, say for example that you're, I don't know, worried that you're never going to meet another partner. You know, we've all been there. I know I have.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you've got this limiting belief. That's just not your limiting belief on that one scenario. That's going to have that ripple effect on so many
Exactly.
other areas, because you've got that internal program in
Mhm.
your mind. And like I gave the example earlier, it's like walking into a car showroom. Are you the kind of person that walks in, sees the car, knows you want it, signs a contract and walks out? Or are you the kind of person that goes in, likes to get the detail, wants to sit in the car, give it a test drive? Whatever you choose is your strategy. So
Mm.
thinking about your thought process, that is your strategy. And if you've got that hardware strategy inside going the same path,
Yeah.
all your limiting beliefs that you've got and everything, unless you do the inner work, you're just going to get the same outcome.
Exactly. And I feel like if you have a limited belief, say it's that you're never going to meet a partner, and then every time that you see something that confirms that, you retain that information and build on top, build on
Yeah.
top. Every time you see something that disproves that information, you forget about that. That's irrelevant. But you build it up and build it up. But the second, like you say, that it's a conscious decision that you're aware of it and you want to explore it, then you start retaining the information of the things that disprove it. And
Yeah.
I love that example, because it's like, it's just knowing yourself.
Yeah.
There are so many different strategies that people can have to approach things. None of them are right, none of them are wrong. It's just knowing what yours is.
What yours
And
is. Yeah.
and I feel like I find with business that I've learned that a lot more, because in my mind, like, I'm definition of an action taker. If the decision is made, it's happening within the next 20 minutes. Like if I've got to that point and made that decision, it's happening. But interesting fact, not everyone is like that. Actually, I found not many people are like that. So whereas some people, so that's it, like with your business, as you build it, you have to do it for all the different like buyer profiles and stuff, and that's their strategy. It's feeding into, are
Yeah.
they detail oriented, are they emotion orientated, what is it that drives different people, and having that awareness of yourself. So again, you can register it and then maybe change it up. Maybe what strategy you've had your whole life doesn't serve you, and it's time to
Yeah.
try another one.
Exactly. And this is the thing, like you mentioned it as well, where we've got the reticular activating system, the RTA of the brain, which is where if you are telling yourself something, it wants to prove you right. So it will find evidence. And like you said, it's that building and building and building on
Yeah.
something that is no longer serving you. Now, with our negative thoughts, if we keep thinking these thoughts every single day, because 95% of the thoughts we had yesterday are the exact same thoughts as we have today.
Yeah. That
And
blew my mind when I heard that. I was like, oh my
yeah,
gosh.
and knowing that, it's like, wow. So no wonder it feels so hard to change,
Yeah.
because you've got that constant thought process. Now,
Mm-hmm.
people say to me, like, because I talk a lot about doing the inner healing work, it's what I specialize in, it's my jam, it's my thing. And it's like, they say to me, but what is the work? Like, how can I change a limiting belief? Now, obviously, there are different types of modalities, especially I do with that on a one-on-one, but
Mm-hmm.
there are so many other ways that you can tackle it.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as deciding,
Mm.
deciding
Yeah.
that you've got the power to change it, and having that belief in yourself and saying to yourself, what will happen if I don't give up? And that's one thing that I've always told myself in anything that I have done. If something isn't working the way it is, and like if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. But it's
Yeah.
like saying to yourself, what would happen if I don't give up? on myself, on this journey that I'm on, no matter how many hard days I have. We all have
Yeah.
moments, we all have days. And like I go through a 3-step process as well. So the first one is obviously awareness. Like awareness is the catalyst for change. Like it really is. And once you're aware of it, then you can like start to deal with it.
Yeah.
And then I always say, like, get clear on. And if you don't know what it is, then that's fine. Just know that over time, if you continue with this work, you're going to figure it out anyway.
Exactly. The second you might have never had any indication at all of what it is, but the second you have that like light turn on of awareness of like, okay, there's something that I don't like here, it will show itself to you pretty
Yeah.
promptly.
Yeah.
Because it's there, it's showing itself to you every single day. You just
Yeah.
didn't have the awareness beforehand. So
Exactly.
absolutely.
And then, yeah. And I think the second step is acceptance, because it's like, okay, this is my limiting belief. I'm not going to be in denial. I'm going to accept where I'm at right now. And I think it's that important step of like meeting yourself where you're at in that moment, and then thinking, right, then it's obviously the taking action. Like, what is it I need to do? And it is literally just baby steps. People think that they do this work and they try it for a couple of weeks and
That's it.
you've got to keep going. Like,
Yeah.
literally, you've got to
You've
keep
got to
going.
power through.
Yeah.
When it gets uncomfortable, when it gets hard, because you are rewiring your brain.
Yes.
You are
Of course.
rewiring
Yeah.
these patterns. Like, it's not going to be easy. It's like not quite the same, but like quitting smoking. It's something
Yeah.
that you've done all day. It's with smoking, it's the nicotine, but it's also the motion of doing things. It's like with alcohol addiction, it's the pattern of going out with your
Yeah.
friends and you don't know how to be in that environment without having a drink in your hand. It's
Yeah.
hearing about someone who's got a successful relationship and not seeing the patterns with yourself and thinking that that's unachievable for you. Like,
Yeah.
it's you are rewiring. It's not easy, it's not quick,
No, it's not.
but when it happens, then it will feel like it was really quick. Then it'll be like,
Yes.
oh
Yeah.
God, okay, it's happened.
Yeah. And this is the thing, it's like repetition
Mm.
rewires the brain. Now, in terms of limiting beliefs, there are many that I'm still working through because they're coming up all the time. But oh my goodness, like where I'm at now to where I was at like 5 years ago, like I said, completely different shift. And that is because I've got curious on myself. And if I'm reacting to certain situations, or I'm choosing to believe that success isn't a thing for me, or choosing to believe that I'm not going to meet a partner, guess what? You're right. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's always focusing on what you do want, because when you sit back and think like, that's never going to happen for me. And I always say to clients, when did you decide that? And it's like, sorry, what? And I'm like, well, you've decided, you've made that decision. And because your brain wants to prove you're right, you're going to get that back.
It's like self-fulfilling prophecy. If you set in your mind that you're going to be single for the rest of your life, or you're going to be unhappy with your body for the rest of your life, or your job, or whatever it is, then guess what? That's what's going to happen. And I love that thing that's like, when you tell the universe your intention, then it transpires to make it happen. And if your intention is this negative thing and that your life's never going to change, and this is how it is for the rest of my life, then whether you're spiritual, scientific, whatever way you look at it, that's what's going to happen. So you've just got to, like you say, have that awareness and explore your options and test them out. Like, just because this isn't your limiting belief anymore doesn't mean that you have to go to the most positive opposite of what it could possibly be. Like, maybe there is a variation that works for you. Like, it's always trial and error. It's so funny. It's like, I feel like it has a negative connotation because there's error in it, but actually trial and error is like the best thing you can do, because you don't know till you try.
Exactly. And like, we discussed on a previous episode, though, when you said about whether it be in your path or not. And it's like, well, you're not going to know until you try. Like, you're literally not going to know. And you can read all of the books, you can listen to all of the podcasts, especially this one. But like, in general, like, you can do and explore so much, but not everything is going to be relevant to you. And that's okay. Like you said, it's about finding your thing that helps you. But I think with any limiting belief is always knowing that if you've got the power to create it, you've got the power to change it.
Absolutely. So when you look back on your past, like 5-10 years, is there one that stands out to you that changed the game?
Oh gosh. Definitely. So I was in another relationship when was this? About 6 or 7 years ago. Was it 7? Do you know what? It's been that long. I can't even remember. I'm not very good with dates and things like that. It was a while ago anyway. And I was in a situation where I was with this guy. We was in a house. We were very much together. That's all I'm going to say. We were very much a couple. And that didn't work out the best, like the best, the outcome was not great. But I knew in my mind, because I'd been through a similar situation before with my other partner, that I know I'm like, if I want to meet someone that's going to serve me and, I'm going to be happy with somebody, I know, like, I just knew in my heart that was possible.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, like when the universe will make it so uncomfortable that you have no choice but to move, and that was that one moment for me. And that was when I sat there. I mean, gosh, I've done so much work since then, but that one moment I was like, thank God I started this journey. Thank God I believed in myself, because I tell you what, that was probably one of the hardest situations.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get into that. I'm happy to share it, as, in the future, when the time's right. But that was the one defining moment. But at the same time, I am so grateful for every single thing that happened. Like, literally, even though it was hell, and I wouldn't go through that again, because I just wouldn't. It just wouldn't happen again. But that was definitely for me. And I just think, when things don't go your way, or you have to go through this pain, I always truly believe there's some form of blessing in there, because it's trying to break that old belief that you've had about yourself. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I mean, I wasn't interested in meeting anybody when I left that relationship, but the thought of being on my own didn't scare me, because I'd already done it. So my belief, by doing things outside of your comfort zone and trying new paths and doing new things, like it broke that cycle for me.
Yeah, exactly that. Everything in life is a lesson. So from that first relationship breakup, that you learned so much from that helped in the later relationship. And like you say, you're never going to go through that again, because you learn from it. And again, like, sometimes you have to go down a path to know it's not right for you. Sometimes you have to make mistakes to know it's a mistake.
100%. Yeah.
And like, anyone listening to this, if you look back on those mistakes in your life, those really like defining, really difficult moments, like, I know when I look back on my life, and I'm sure you're the same, I can clearly see the blessing, the thing that I needed
100%.
to learn from it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can be too close to it. Sometimes it can take years for you to realize, but you always do, like, because there is. And sometimes it's like not even related. It's like a knock-on effect that you didn't even perceive happening, but somehow it makes that life-changing impact to you, and you learn from it, and then it completely catapults you in a new direction.
Massively. And I think, obviously, doing all of this work now, and like the network that we're in, and everything that we learn, I truly believe at that time when I was in that relationship, my vibration must have been so low, because I attracted that type of, and that's why it was so toxic. And I hold my hands up, I was not innocent in that relationship, in the sense that I used to speak in a certain way, which I wasn't ever proud of. There was raised voices. It was toxic. It was horrendous. But I had so much healing I had to do. And so did he, and probably still does to this day. But I had so much inner healing that I had to do. And sorry, this is not even about limiting beliefs, but it kind of all, it kind of all fits into it. And I think once you're at that low level vibration, you do tend to attract things like that. But then it all starts with the mindset. And I always remember being in that moment thinking, I remember calling my mum, and I was like so worried, because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this situation that I'm in, because it was heavy. It was really heavy. It was deep. Like I said, it's not just me being in a toxic relationship. There was way more to it than that. But in my mind, I was like, Becky, there's a way out. Like, there is a way out, and there is a new life for you. And I think because I truly deep down believed it and did the work and didn't, that's what I said, that's when I threw myself into self-development, and I didn't give up. Like, look at my life now. Like, thank God that happened.
Yeah. And if you think back to 18-year-old Bex, who that person was, and all of the journeys that you could have gone down, all the paths that you could have gone down, if you never moved down to London, if you never got the job, never, like, any of these things, both of us could have led completely different lives. Like, for me, when I was younger, I did not dream big. I did not dream big at all. Like, because I was in my small town, in my family, and all of these things. And honestly, to me, the dream was to work at Tesco. I was obsessed with cashiers for some point. Obsessed. Like, I don't know why, but I was really wanted to do it. So I had already overachieved my goals by the time I was 19. So then but without realizing, like
Yeah,
I didn't at 16 or whatever set out and say this is the path that's going to work
yeah,
out for me. I just kind of lent into where my personality took me and where
yeah,
opportunities took me. But if I, like, was it a limiting belief that was making me dream really small and not see all this potential for myself? Because, like, was that a reflection of my environment, and like I'm a woman and I'm just going to stay home and stuff like that, that could have been my
yeah,
life. And that, if I lent into that, it would have been so easy. I was with a boyfriend from 16 to 20. It would have been so easy to stay in my hometown, to stay in that relationship, to
yeah,
get a job in the local business, and like all of this stuff. It would have been so easy to do all of those things, and how
yeah.
different my life would have been.
Gosh, yeah, I
And
know.
like,
And
imagine where you would be right now if, like, you hadn't pushed through that limiting belief of like, I don't know, but you probably had one that I can't live away from home. I can't uproot my
oh God,
whole
yeah.
life and move
Lisa,
down to
do
London.
you
Like,
know how many
what?
times I literally had my stuff in the back of my car driving back to Manchester, and then my mum saying to me, there's only so many times you can bring your TV back. Like, it was on the wall, it was off the wall.
Oh, I
Like,
love that.
I just couldn't settle. And it was
Yeah.
when she turned around to me and she said, "You've got to give it a go. Like, you stay in." And I was so upset on the phone, and I was like, "I can't do this. I feel so lonely." And I was lost. I was so lost.
Mm-hmm.
And she said to me, she said, "You're staying. That's it."
And I think that's so important that you shared that, because we can sit here and be these great versions of ourselves and have grown so much, but we've all been right where
Oh
you were in that
God,
moment where you're
always.
literally like, oh my God, I like, that really spoke to me, like where you just,
Yeah,
yeah, I was like, where was it? When I went traveling for 7 months, then the first day I got there, I was like, this is not what I was expecting. What have I done? Looking for flights home. And later on that day, I met people and I experienced things that changed everything. And I stayed for 7 months. And
yeah,
it's just before that moment of great achievement and turnaround and smashing those limiting beliefs is a
yeah,
fuckload of fear.
yeah, yeah,
Just before driving
yeah,
in your car back to Manchester with the TV in the back, like, that is
yeah.
how it goes. It's not
God, it was
pretty.
awful. It was the worst time of my life, honestly.
Mm.
Like, I just remember, and I was in such I felt so stuck because I was like, I'm traveling the world with an amazing airline,
Mhm.
going to some beautiful hotels, but at the same time, never felt so lonely in all my life.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's just like, wow. But I do believe, going back to that environment, like,
Mm.
environment is everything. I've always said this, like, you become who you surround yourself with, because
Yeah.
you only know, like, what you know when you step out on your own, like you said, and you just go on and, like, figure things out on your own. It's being single for 3 years, like when I moved down here, was the best time, because
Yeah.
you get to find out about you and what you enjoy and what you want out of life. And it's like, only when you sit down, I mean, I journal all the time, but you sit down and you think, what would my ideal day look like? And then when you get curious, again, a limiting belief will pop you back in and be like, don't be so stupid, you're living in cuckoo land. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, you need to have a job in the corporate world, you need to pay the bills. Like, I say even to people in the office today, and they say, oh, it pays the bills. And I'm like, I don't want to go through life paying bills.
No,
I'm
you are
sorry,
not
that's
here
not
to
my
pay
life.
bills. No, you are not here to. And what was that quote that I heard? And it was like, if you're willing to show up and put in the energy to someone else's dream, imagine if you put the energy into your own dream.
Oh,
And
Lisa,
that,
that's just hit. That's
I
literally knowing our conversation earlier. That has
know.
literally just hit. Oh, wow, it's
When I
true.
heard that, I was like, oh, that's so
Yeah,
true, because it is, because not only are there limited beliefs we put on ourselves and we've learned from our families, but, and I'm not trying to be like a conspiracy theorist, but these large corporations make you feel like you're less than you are. Make you
mm,
feel like, oh, if you want a pay rise, it's 5%, you've got to put 2 paragraphs of thing telling me why you earn it. No, this is your life. You are not here to pay bills. You are here to make something of yourself and do
yeah,
something that you enjoy. Like,
yes,
do not follow the beat of someone else's drum. This is your life. And like, fuck the limiting beliefs. Fuck everyone else that's in the
yeah,
way. Like, go
yeah,
for it and just do it. Like,
Yeah.
sound very preachy, but I'm just so passionate
No,
about
it is. I know you are, and
like
because you've done it and you've overcome it, and you are, even to me, you are such an inspiration. And every time I get on calls with you, I'm just like so fired up with it, and it's so true. And there's so many limiting beliefs that I've smashed through myself, like doing this podcast. Oh my God, do you know?
yeah.
3 years ago, this was on my vision board, and in my mind, I'm thinking this is just a pretty vision board. Like it would be amazing.
Yeah.
But for me, it wasn't more about being and doing the like showing up and doing the podcast. I think looking back at that, and this is literally just come to my mind, but looking at my vision board 3 years ago, it was like, imagine having the confidence to do a podcast. That was
Right.
what was on my vision board. So when I think about it now, it's like that was it. It wasn't so much about having a podcast and having
Yeah.
it's what the podcast meant to me. And for that, it was like, imagine showing up and being this coach that is confident and passionate about her stuff and she can help other people. Like that's been my vision. This has literally just come to me, Lisa, and this happens to me, and you know this. It's like when I put things on a vision board, it's more like what you want, but it's like, but what does that mean?
This is so like we are so aligned. It's exploded. Like what I'll say to the people that are listening, the amount of things when we've been growing this podcast that me and Bex have sent to each other, and we are just the same person.
It's
But so
mad.
what I was going to say is that so I did my vision board at the start of the year, and it was the holidays, the house, the luxe life, and then I revisited it in June, and after I've been in this world for this long, and it was how I felt. It's
Yeah.
what I wanted in me. It's how secure I wanted to feel. It's how I wanted to impact. And it was that step back moment where it's like, no, that's not, a vision board is not here to have a materialistic list
No,
or
it's
anything like that.
not.
It's who do you want to embody and become and live as that person.
Embodiment. We need to do an episode on that. Let's write it down, honestly,
Yeah.
because that is so powerful. And that is something I've been working on, not only myself, but with clients with the embodiment. Because, like you said, you can have a vision board. Everybody likes nice things, like we like to have like treat ourselves. For me, it's time freedom and how I want to feel and the person I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, the best way to break a limiting belief is embodiment work. 100%. Just
Yes.
do that embodiment work every single day, even if at the start it doesn't feel, because it's not
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to feel like it straight away. But I'm telling
No.
you now, this has just literally hit home with me on this episode, Lisa. But like I said, my vision board, everything on there was because I wanted to feel confident, because 3 years ago when I qualified and got me, I didn't at all. And I thought I could never see myself being successful because I didn't have the confidence to show up and be open to the world.
Yeah.
And this was 3 years of work. This isn't something
Yeah.
that I've just,
Overnight.
created an account online. I've done my health coaching. I've done this. I've done that. Yeah, great. I've got all these clients. No, it's taken 3 years of building me. Do you
Exactly.
know
And
what I
now
mean?
you back yourself.
Yeah,
Then you had the credentials, you had the things you needed to have, but it's that embodiment that you've done over the past
yeah,
3 years through yourself and for your clients, and hearing all these different experiences. Because I really believe as a coach, you learn so much. You'll hear someone's story and you're like, whoa,
yeah. I
that
learn with
took
my
me back.
clients, like literally
Yes.
always,
Yes.
and because we
Yeah.
learn through teaching, the
Mm.
majority of the time anyway.
Exactly. And that's why I think it's so important to work with multiple coaches. You might find one coach or mentor or whatever it is that you really mesh with, but change it up,
Yeah,
because like different perspectives are so valuable,
absolutely. Yeah,
and you need that insight. But yeah, it's that embodiment that you have done for the past 3 years, and then it's you back yourself now. All of those things,
yeah.
all of that work that you've put in has built up to, and it sounds so simple, like just confidence, but
Yeah.
it's one of the hardest things to gain.
It really is. And like you
Yeah.
said, you can have all the qualifications in the world. Honest to God, I was doing a course after course after course after course. Don't get me wrong, I love a course, I love learning, and I
Yeah.
will continue to constantly do different
Yeah.
different courses and things. But it still wasn't enough.
Mhm.
And I was like, why have I still got this limiting belief? Like, how can I be a mindset coach and a health coach and all of these things and do NLP and still feel not good enough? Or
Yeah.
not, honestly, I'm going to be
Mhm.
completely open and honest, because it doesn't happen overnight. And if anybody tells you it does, they're lying to you, because I
Yeah.
truly don't believe that you can just wake up and be like, oh yeah, no.
No.
Or
If
I
only.
just don't believe it. And it's like years and years, like you said, of doing that embodiment, and everything I've done and every path I've gone down, even though it wasn't the right path for me, hence why I've changed, I changed my
Yeah.
branding, I changed my whole way I wanted
Everything.
to cut. Yeah, literally
Yeah.
everything. But when I did that, I was like, this is how, this is me. This is how
There we
it's
go.
meant to go, because it felt sticky. And I thought, no wonder. So looking back, yes, I had certain limiting beliefs attached to it, but at the same
Mm.
time, I had to go down that road to try it, to know that it wasn't for me. So that's kind of a bit of a double-edged sword, do they
Yeah.
say? Whatever.
We'll take it. Yeah. um okay, I've loved this episode. This is not where we intended
No,
to
it
go with
wasn't.
it,
It
tangent on
wasn't.
tangent, but like I always say, they are the best places. Just let it flow and see what comes up, and that's what we're supposed to talk about.
Absolutely.